With less than 36 hours remaining until the 0.5 league start, the time has come to start narrowing down your all too long list of league start options. So with that in mind, let's add one more build to your list, with my second candidate for my own personal league starter, Mana Thorns Martial Artist, also known as CBT Martial Artist. You can decide for yourself if that means Crackling Barrier Thorns or Cock and Ball. The plan here is to use Hollow Form, a skill granted by the Martial Artist which allows you to turn any attack into a channeling skill, by allowing you to have clones use that attack when you channel. Now there is a question of whether or not the clones are going to count as you for barbs, which is why this video is listed as a build concept, because it is very much experimental, so approach with care. But if they do, this means that we can finally use a channeling strike skill to use Crackling Barrier and barbs at the same time. Crackling Barrier gives us 15% of maximum mana as lightning thorns damage while we're channeling, and barbs dishes out our thorns damage alongside any strike attack as long as we've been hit recently. This means that with massive amounts of mana, we can get massive amounts of damage, and we can also get damage taken from mana before life to make us incredibly tanky at the same time. Because we do have to get hit to dish out our damage with this build because we are using barbs, defenses are quite important, and this means that Ice Tomb is just kind of bad. Even with Rune Forging, Ice Tomb just makes you a little bit too squishy, because the problem with it isn't its base defense stats, it's the rolls on it compared to rare chests or something like Cloak of Defiance, which allow you to get a lot more damage taken from mana before life. With Ice Tomb, we are forced to use Mind Over Matter, which cuts all mana recovery from all sources in half and makes for a truly awful survival experience, because while you can still get insane max hits, your recovery just turns out to be absolutely terrible when you do that. All that is to say that this build should be much stronger defensively than the Infernalist that I showed you all in 0.3, and should also do similar if not more damage because of the extra options that Crackling Barrier over Ice Tomb enables us to take, such as not having to take the damage loss of converting to fire for Avatar of Fire, or a ring slot loss to convert to lightning with one of the Brotherhood rings, because cold damage and thorns just don't really work together because frozen enemies don't hit you. With all of that explanation out the way, it's time to show you the path of building. Now, to start off with, I'm just going to walk you through the leveling setup I've got here. This is a leveling setup that I put together myself in my stream with the help of PN from my chat. Thank you very much, PN. But it's a Hollow Palm Stormwave setup. We're just pathing to Hollow Palm and as much damage as we can. I've only leveled it to Act 3. If you want a different build guide that goes further than Act 3, I recommend, where did I link it? Over here. This build from Guy That Dies. Guy That Dies is a speedrunner who has a very good leveling setup here, also using Hollow Palm, using different skills, but the build should work pretty similarly. It goes further, and it also just should be faster. It's a bit more complicated than the setup I've got, but if you feel comfortable using a complicated setup, it will get you faster. So yeah, that's the leveling setup on the tree. In terms of skills, Act 1 we'll be using Glacial Cascade and Frozen Locust. Use Frozen Locust to put down a little ice thing on the ground, which Glacial Cascade then blows up to do big damage and freeze the enemies. When enemies are about to die, you can use Killing Palm so that you can get a power charge and then do big damage with Falling Thunder. Your Act 1 with Quarterstaves is a little bit awkward. Quarterstave builds are extremely squishy this early. It takes you some time to get the survive sorted out, but it shouldn't be too bad, especially with attrition, to help boss fights go faster so you don't run out of flask charges. In Act 2, you'll actually get to use Hollow Palm, and this is where I recommend switching to Stormwave. Until you get access to Stormwave, you can use Ice Strike, but either way, you are basically just one-buttoning the rest of the campaign down. I mean, you're going to want to put your Bell down and your Frozen Locust to get a little bit of extra damage when you're using Ice Strike. Once you switch to Stormwave, it is completely one button all the way through the campaign, even in Act 3. I do like to use Ice Strike and Tempest Bell for bossing, even once you've got Stormwave, because it's just, you have a little bit more control over what's going on, and you have a little bit more single target damage, but you could just use Stormwave if you just want to one button it. And then I've also got here for your leveling process just some gear priorities. It's basically just resistance, life, and damage. Obviously no weapon because we're going Hollow Palm technique. That's the leveling out the way. That's the boring part. Now we get to the Thorns part. Now you're not going to be able to play Mana Thorns immediately out of the gate. There are level requirements to the things that you need to use to play Crackling Barrier Thorns. I have here my level recommendations for everything. I recommend switching to regular Thorns at level 47. You can switch as early as level 16, but as I explained before, Quarterstaff starting area, that Monk starting area, it's quite squishy, it's difficult to get your survive up, so I recommend only switching to Thorns at level 47, because at that point you should be able to get quite a bit of recoup. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't put all the recoup nodes on the tree here because most of them are only being added with the recent patch. This phase of our leveling does have everything that's currently on the tree, but I've just got 2 trees for the physical thorn setup because later on, like pretty much as soon as you get past level 47, you're going to start picking up new nodes which just aren't in path of building yet. I have linked in the notes a very, very long and annoying link, but that will show you a full tree of what it looks like once you start picking up more points in the physical thorn setup. Now, you can stay in the physical thorn setup for as long as you want, but you will want to switch to mana thorns at some point, I think, because that is the fun that being a martial artist allows you to do. You're playing martial artist to get access to Crackling Barrier, but you cannot really switch to mana thorns until level 65. Now, there were 2 reasons for that. I don't remember what the first one was, but the first one had a level cap of level 64. The more important one is that you want to be able to use Cloak of Defiance so that you can get damage taken from mana before life to make you tanky enough to survive the mana switch. Now, I'm going to talk you more through the physical thorn setup. If we go to the tree here, you can see that we are just pathing straight to Revenge, Retaliation, and Thornhide, because these will be what enables you to actually have half decent damage as a Thorns character from the right side of the tree. It's a lot of pathing, but it's really important. It's a good idea. I also recommend picking up Scarred Faith. We can play an Armor ES hybrid, especially with the Stones of Fist from the Martial Artist. You should have a lot of energy shield. You should have a lot of armor. This will help you have a decent source of recovery and survive. Speaking of recovery and survive, we've got some recoup here. We've got some recoup here. And we've got some recoup here. Because it is less than 100% and we don't have any additional recoup speed and we don't have leech, unless you can afford to instill Vengeance, which would be nice if you can. But because we don't have those things, if you don't instill, you are definitely going to want to use a lot of flasks. So make sure you have a good life flask before you switch to Phys Thorns. You are going to have survive issues. Now, as I said, I can't fully show you the Phys Thorns endgame setup. I mean, I could open the link, but I'm lazy and you can figure it out for yourself. I believe in you. You are smart. But there's a big recoup node here, and there's a big recoup node here, and there's a recoup node here, and there's some armor ES nodes here, and I think another armor ES node around here. We take all of that just to be a little bit tankier. I don't have progression setups because everything's not in path of building yet. I'll try and update this PoB as soon as the tree is in here, but Local Identity did say that that's only going to happen after the patch comes out. Now, you can play the physical thorn setup as fully into the end game as you want. You can even get to a level 100 on it. Just keep investing in recoup and armor ES. I've only gone to level 83 here. I think it's a level 100 setup once you actually add all the recoup stuff, though. I don't fully remember. I made this PoB 2 days ago, had a mental breakdown yesterday, and I'm recording the video today, so I'm not 100% sure. Now, as for your skills when you go to the Phys Thorn setup, let me just actually go to fully the loadout. You have Hollow Form with Rapid Assault, Barbs, and Quill Burst in here. Another reason that I forgot that you only switch to Physical Thorns at level 47 is because that is when you will have space for 3 gems in Hollow Form. I think you do get access to that a little bit earlier, but like I think it's only like level 39 or something like that. I checked yesterday. I don't remember right now. It wasn't yesterday. Yes, time's a fucking blur. Any mistakes? Credit to Minosuke. I'll put the Discord message up on the screen. Thanks, Minosuke. Appreciate it. Love you. But yeah, you want to be able to slot Barbs and Quill Burst into Rapid Assault before you switch to the Physical Thorns, otherwise your damage is going to feel painful. Then we have Kill the Weak here as a movement skill. It'll just teleport you to the nearest enemy, give you some Barbs and Quill Burst damage, and it'll be nice and just big damage. Then we've got Resonating Shield. Breaking Armor is really important for a Physical Thorn setup. We've got Quill Burst, Armor Demolisher, Rapid Attacks, all just in favor of breaking armor as quickly as possible so that you can get your Scavenged Plating stacks. Now, Scavenged Plating gives you flat Thorns damage and armor per stack, and you get stacks of breaking enemy armor, so you want to make sure you have stacks of Scavenged Plating before you start using your Hollow Form. So you want to use Resonating Shield to get those stacks up. And then lastly, because you need to break armor to get the Scavenged Plating stacks, you're going to want to use Spear Stab with Exploit Weakness so that you can consume the armor break, so that you can re-break the armor on enemies, especially when you're in a single enemy fight, to make sure that you always have the Scavenged Plating stacks. Your damage will suck without Scavenged Plating. Scavenged Plating is a little little bit overpowered compared to the rest of Thorns. So yeah, make sure you always have Scavenge Plating up. You can see the buff in the top left corner of your screen. And then here we have the physical Thorns gear priorities. Yay! Here's your spear. It is very important to note that there is very little that matters on the spear. In the end game, you can get damage as extra, and also attack speed is nice, but we don't care about levels, we don't care about physical damage, we don't care about accuracy rating. There's like so much shit that we just don't care about. So the most important thing is that you have a high attack speed spear with low attribute requirements. I recommend just going to Renly and buying whatever the hell he's got. It'll be good enough and it'll keep your attribute requirements low. Speaking of attribute requirements, I forgot to mention that you want to keep your Rapid Assault at level 5 and your Color Weak at level 3, again, just to keep your attribute requirements low. We don't mind about Resonating Shield. The higher level it is, the more armor it breaks, which is useful. Same for Scavenge Plating. The higher level it is, the more stacks it gives you. I need to fix the level here because we're only at level 47 at this point. But the important thing is that you keep these two skills low because you really don't want a lot of dexterity. You want to put as many of your attributes as you can into strength because that is survive. Then we have your shield. It's worth noting that your shield, your body armor, and your belt are your sources of Thorns damage, so the highest priority on these 3 slots is always going to be Thorns damage. Here is your Thorns damage gear thresholds. I updated this yesterday. If you watch my Prize Pain Ritualist video, it was wrong in that video. Someone corrected me on Discord. Thank you very much. I don't remember who it was. I will put a screenshot on the screen because thank you for correcting and helping us get the correct numbers. I think a few people helped with that yesterday. Cull and I both had the wrong numbers in our guide, obviously, because DDG has changed the numbers recently. So yeah, take a look here. This is the level requirements to get each new Thorns damage number. Your damage more or less doubles basically at each of these thresholds. So make sure that you upgrade your gear at every single one of these thresholds. And that is going to be your shield, your body armor, and your belt. You also want res life on armor on pretty much everything. You're kind of playing an armor stacker, so make sure to get those stats. You can also get some energy shield as well because we are playing with Scarred Faith, but armor is much more important. And then it's worth noting that with your body armor, you get 10% of item armor on equipped body armor as Thorns damage. So you can actually often get more Thorns damage from armor than from Thorns damage. So make sure that your body armor is as high armor as it can possibly be. If you have 1,000 armor on your body armor, that is worth 100 flat Thorns damage. If you have the option between getting a body armor with 50 Thorns damage and 500 armor, or no Thorns damage and 1,000 armor, those two items are identical. They give you the same amount of damage. So look at the armor on your body armors. That's going to be really important. And then your rings and amulet, this is just resistance in life. You can also get some spirit on your amulet. It's never a bad thing to have, but just resistances in life. Now, a very, 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 very important thing to note with Thorns, and if you're in an experimental build guide and you don't know this, interesting choices you've made, but for Thorns, you must have Crown of the Pale King. Thorns does no damage, zilch, zero, none, without this item. Because without this item, Thorns only retaliates against melee attacks. There are surprisingly few mobs in the game that actually use melee attacks. A lot of things that you think would count as melee do not count as melee. So you need Crown of the Pale King to actually retaliate with Thorns to actually do damage. So make sure you buy this item before you switch to Thorns. By the time you are level 47, unless you are a speedrunner, the Crown of the Pale King should be 1 exalt. So it's not expensive. Unless you're playing an SSF, you've got no excuse. If you are playing an SSF, hold off on the Thorns transition until you can get a Crown of the Pale King. Also, Thorns just isn't really the best SSF league starter, so maybe don't play SSF if you're going to try this build. Or if you played SSF, you just dropped a Crown of the Pale King and you're looking for ways to play Thorns. Go for it. And then the other unique you're going to want, but this one's much less necessary, is Briar Patch. This gives you Thorns critical hit chance. It can be corrupted to give you up to 31% Thorns critical hit chance. This just helps you get crit capped with Thorns, which will allow you to do a lot more damage. Also, these boots are runeable in 0.5, so when you get that thing that turns an item item into a rune, use it on Briar Patch. It's going to give you a lot of damage, and you can probably socket the rune into Briar Patch as well to get even more Thorns critical hit chance. You can decide on that based on how much crit you actually have in general. And then the last slot, which I haven't covered, is gloves. And the reason I haven't covered that is because with the martial artist, you will be taking the notable as early as possible. That gives you fists of stone. I don't know the modifiers that you get from that. I just know that they are strong, so that's why you've got no gloves here. I can't tell you what mods to get on the gloves because I don't know what is available. But there is your Phys Thorns gear priority. I do have a higher budget version of the Phys Thorns for people who try to switch to Mana Thorns maybe later, or maybe they want to stick with Phys Thorns as long as they can. This is not a physical Thorns guide, but I've still got a general progression for it here for you, and you can see that we take the Brass Dome body armor later in the game. This is because the Brass Dome can give you so much armor. A Brass Dome and a perfectly rolled body armor with Phys Thorns and armor on it have the same amount of Thorns damage. A mirror tier armor and Brass Dome are as good as each other. So just fucking use Brass Dome. Now, I can show you more for the Phys Thorns endgame, but you can just take a look at the PoB. I don't expect very many people to get super far into Phys Thorns before switching to Mana Thorns, because if you're playing Martial Artists, it's because you're really excited to use Crackling Barrier, to use CBT. So, let's get into the Mana Thorns transition. Now, for the Mana Thorns transition, the most important thing is Mind Over Matter. And by Mind Over Matter, I do not mean this keystone over here. I mean all these little nodes that give you 20% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, 4% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, this one's recoup, 4% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, 4% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, 10% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, 8% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, 8% of damage taken from Mana Before Life. You can get 50% on the tree, you can get this on jewels, you can get this on runes, and you can get this from desecrated modifiers, and you can get this from Cloak of Defiance. Now, Cloak of Defiance gives you 50%. So between the tree and Cloak of Defiance, you will be at 100%. And this means that you don't have to take Mind Over Matter, which cuts your recovery in half. You don't want your recovery cut in half. Recovery is so ridiculously important for Thorns. So early on, you'll run Cloak of Defiance. Later on, you'll have more options available to you as you get more budget. But you want to run Cloak of Defiance to get as much damage taken from Mana Before Life as possible. Do not exceed 100%. It's okay to go a little bit under 100%, but do not exceed 100%. If you have 110% of damage is taken from Mana Before Life, then you are taking 10% more damage. So do not exceed 100%. So that's your priority on the tree, is just getting all of this damage taken from Mana Before Life. You also grab Eldritch Battery because you'll have a decent amount of energy shield from your Fists of Stone, and maybe from other slots as well. This will convert all your energy shield to mana. We're not armor stacking anymore at this point, so you just actually want as much energy shield as possible to convert it all into mana, to have a bigger mana pool, because your mana pool is your defenses. Mana will make you so insanely tanky. And then otherwise, we're just focusing power charges, crit chance, a little bit of extra lightning damage and shock, and just jazz like that. You can see that in the later game tree, we take more lightning damage, we take more mana related stuff, we take more power charge related stuff. We also do remnant stuff later in the game, but that's not super important. That's going to be the last few points you spend. Again, I don't have much in the way of progression trees. I'm on limited time, and also this build is experimental, so this is a pretty simplistic PoB, but it'll show you what you want to do towards the end game, and it's all just centered around mana recovery, power charges, lightning damage, and shock. Now, as for the items, we're obviously going to be still using hollow form. Now, I did toy around with the idea of maces, but we actually just still want to attack as fast as possible. So we're going to use Rapid Assault and hollow form with barbs and quill burst and crackling barrier. These three things are essential. Oh, that was the other thing that has a level 65 requirement. That's getting the extra socket in hollow form so you can use crackling barrier. So that's why we only switched to Mana Thorns at level 65 as well, so that you can actually put crackling barrier in your hollow form. We're then also going to use Cull the Weak, again just a movement skill. This isn't really not going to do a lot of damage, but you're just using it to teleport to enemies to get where you need to go faster. We've also got Frost Bomb. This is just here for bossing, like specifically for pinnacle bosses. They have more resistances than you can penetrate. They have 75% resistances, we have 35% pen, so you're going to want a little bit of extra exposure, so this should give at least 40% exposure to those enemies. I haven't used Frost Bomb before. Someone let me know if the support setup sucks ass. I am not testing it right now. I'm on limited time. Then we get to our spirit gems. Now, mana remnants is huge. When I was playing my mana Infernalist in 0.3, this was the singular thing keeping me alive. With Mind Over Matter, you cannot get much recovery, but you can get mana remnants. Without Mind Over Matter, you can get a lot of recovery, but you're still going to want mana remnants because it gives you an insane amount of recovery. It is insane. So we run mana remnants with remnant potency to make the remnants more powerful, to give you even more mana. Yes, this does add a delay. If you don't like the delay, you can skip remnant potency. I think the delay is worth the extra mana. And then we've got harmonic remnants as well. This gives you a chance for an extra remnant and also allows you to pick them up from further away. On the tree, even on the late game tree, I've given you more pickup range for remnants because picking up remnants is kind of a pain in the ass. You just kind of want them to vacuum into you. Speaking of remnants, Lingering Illusion also leaves remnants. These remnants give you a power charge, so whenever an enemy attacks, the illusion that you get when you dodge, so you dodge, you get an illusion, enemy attacks illusion, it drops a power charge remnant. This remnant, all it does is it gives you a power charge. But what you can get from a power charge is in hollow form, and editing Lily, please overlay this because it's not in PoB yet, but with hollow form you get to attack extra times per attack when you use power charges. So this is just going to allow you to dish up your barb stacks much faster, especially against big packs of mobs, and it's just going to increase your clear and your damage quite a lot. So this is your spirit setup, and then for items for the Mana Thorns transition, your spear is still just the same spear as you are using for Phys Thorns. Again, attack speed, damage is extra if you can get it, but keep the attribute requirements low. If you have a little bit of extra budget, you can maybe consider crafting. If you're going to do that, get yourself an exceptional sea glass spear. This is the lowest requirement spear that you can reliably get in the end game, and therefore it's the one that there are exceptionals for on the market. It has low attribute requirements. You can get attack speed on it. It's got 1.6 base attack speed, which is very nice, and then you can also get damages extra on it. I used to have a crafting guide. It's still on my channel. It's outdated, but you can maybe try and figure out things from there. I will try and put out a new Thorns Spear crafting guide this league if Thorns Spear remains good. We do need to test out Soul's Grit. I just haven't worked that into any of my guides because it's risky. But your important thing is just keep the attribute requirements low. That's the most important thing. Now, as for our shield, you actually don't need Thorns damage on your shield now because we are primarily doing lightning damage. We are not scaling our physical damage, so getting physical Thorns damage is not that important. That's why we've also skipped Scavenge Plating. So you actually just want resistances, energy shield, and mana recoup on the shield. The mana recoup is a desecrate specifically. So you are going to want to suffix desecrate every shield you get. You want to get stuff with an open suffix, unless it's got triple res. Res is important. And then energy shield will turn into mana with the shield. You cannot get flat mana on a shield, but you can get armor and energy shield on a shield. And this armor and energy shield will give you more mana. I like having block chance. That's why we've gone with an armor ES shield, but you actually can probably just go with a focus if you want to. For body armor, we've got Cloak of Defiance. As I mentioned before, you need to get to 100% of damage taken from Mana Before Life, or as close to as you possibly can. Briar Patch and Crown of the Pale King just as essential for this setup as for every other Thorn setup under the planet. Then for your jewelry, this is where you're going to get the majority of your mana from. Getting resistances is still important, but using essences, you can get percentage mana and flat mana on your ring. With the Breach Tree, you can also now get rings with the percentage mana implicit. This should allow you to get an insane amount of mana. And then amulets can roll mana and percent mana, and you can also get mana recoup. I think that's also a desecrate on your amulet. This will just allow you to be, again, much tankier. And then we get to the belt. Guess what you want here? That's right, resistances and mana. So make sure that you get a belt with resistances and mana. And then finally, I have put together somewhat of a jewel setup. I think for some reason it's showing us the Uber endgame jewel setup, but the important thing here is just Heart of the Well. This will give you more Thorns crit chance, and this can give you more damage taken from Mana Before Life. It's just tasty for, again, making you a little bit tankier. I have more jewels in the Uber endgame setup, which is slightly more fleshed out. We also want an Against the Darkness, because this can give you increased and flat mana, very tasty. With where I've got it positioned in the tree in the Uber endgame setup, it is giving us 260 mana. That's a lot of mana. It's very useful, very tasty. Then we've got the Heart of the Well. This is still an identical Heart of the Well to the one I just showed you. Thorns crit chance, that's what you want on there. That's the most important thing. You can get other shit, but Thorns crit chance, that's the important part. Take a Thorns crit chance Heart of the Well. From Nothing, we get From Nothing from Necromantic Talisman. This allows you to go over here, and this allows you to get Glazed Flesh, saving 2 points that do nothing to you, and Eldritch Will, saving 2 points that do nothing for you, and also Adverse Growth with the damage taken from Mana Before Life just saves you 2 points from this Pathing node and this Mana Regeneration Rate node, which are not that important. Then also in the Uber endgame setup, I've just put Aspirational gear here. This is like all your perfect gear. It's again mostly just energy shield, resistances, and mana. That's all you really care about. Here's a simulated Fists of Stone with modifiers that we have seen in teasers, but don't take my word for it. Wait for the Fists of Stone to come out, and then we can take a closer look at it. You can see here the percent mana, the flat mana, a little bit of energy shield. This is going to make you very, very fucking tanky because you can just get so much fucking mana between all of these modifiers. And then Laviandra's Spirit. I think it's a reasonably common flask, and it just applies your mana recovery to you constantly, so you don't actually have to click your flask. You'll probably get more mana in panic situations with a rare mana flask, but this constant recovery is just going to make your brain turn off a little bit more, which is nice and comfy. For the endgame setup, we also pretty much have exactly the same skill setup. I think I literally just copy pasted and adjusted the levels to be appropriate to level 65, so don't even think about that. And then for the tree, you can see if I compare that you've got a little bit of a respec. This is mostly just for more point efficiency as you get things like the Necromantic Talisman from nothing. And then as you get more levels, you can take nodes here and you take stuff in other places and whatever. But basically, it's still just power charges, mana recovery, lightning damage, shock. We get some lightning penetration here. We get some shock here. We get a little bit of lightning damage here. We get some shock here. We get some power charge stuff here. We get some power charge stuff here. We get some power charge stuff here. That's all the power charges we get. We get some crit over here. Mana taken before life, mana taken before life, mana taken before life, mana taken before life, mana recovery, Arcane Surge, mana recovery, and remnant stuff. It's a very simple tree, actually. There's a lot that we would like to take here that we don't take because this build can use points. This build really likes points. This build is very point hungry. But what we do manage to get here should be quite nice. Without the Fists of Stone, because we don't know what they're gonna do, but without the Fists of Stone, we already have almost 5,000 mana. We should hopefully be able to get even more mana on the Fists of Stone. I'm predicting we should be able to get to like 8,000 mana on a fully endgame juiced build. That'll be a lot of lightning damage, so we can just fucking enjoy that. And then the last thing to mention is in all of my setups, I have not put runes in. This is because GGG is giving us all these new runes. I don't know what's going to be ideal. You can get a lot of power with the rune that gives you jewel sockets in your items. Jewels do a lot for mana stackers. They allow you to get damage taken from mana before life. They allow you to get more mana recovery. They just do a lot for you. You can also get runes of tithing, which is what almost every Thorns build wants, because that is 1 to 100 flat lightning damage. We are dealing lightning damage, so that's equivalent. I did the maths. I don't remember what it was now, but I think it was like to 150 mana or something, or maybe 200 mana. I don't feel like doing the maths right now. But anyway, a rune of tithing is damage equivalent to quite a bit of mana. But then you do also get runes that just give mana, and with perfect runes along the way, maybe they give a lot of mana. Maybe you'll be able to get more mana than you can get lightning damage from the runes of tithing. I don't know. There's a lot to find out about. There's a lot that we don't know, so we're gonna have to wait and see with the runes. That is why I have not put runes in this PoB or in my other build guide that I put out recently. I will add runes to both PoBs as I play the builds and as I see what runes they can use. So that is a fuck around and find out angle. I almost forgot to mention this in this video, so thank God that I remembered this morning. But there are also some good optional uniques that you can use for mana thorns and for physical thorns, but mostly for mana thorns. I'm going to start with the mana thorns ones. You've got Alchemy Era, a shield. This will lose you a lot of mana compared to a rare shield or a focus, but it will give you damage blocked recouped as mana, which is a good source of recovery. So if you feel like your max hit is fine and your damage is fine and you're just dying a little bit too quickly from multi-hits, this will make you tankier in situations where your recovery can't keep up. Midnight Braid is going to do more or less exactly the same thing. I think it's better than Alchemy Era, but it's up to you. It's 50% of damage taken recouped as mana. That is a lot of recoup. That should give you a lot of survive, and this also does have some mana and res on it, so it's not too much worse than a rare belt. It's probably better than a bad rare belt, but you will probably have a good rare belt by the time you're switching to mana anyway. And then there's Dream Fragments. This gives you chill and freeze immune, which is very nice, but more importantly, it gives you 15% increased maximum mana. This is going to have a lot less resistances than a rare ring, and also rare rings are just really good these days. You can get a lot of increased maximum mana on a rare ring, so you take the decision into your own hands. I think a rare ring is better, but but dream fragments will be better in some situations. So consider the amount of mana you have, consider the amount of res you have, the amount of life you have, the amount of everything you have. Have a look at dream fragments, maybe keep one on you to like swap and see what happens to your mana every now and then. It's not too expensive, I don't think, so just slap that in there if you want to, but you also don't have to. Being chill or freeze immune is very nice though, and it will also make it easier for you to go for chaos inoculation, which I haven't done in this guide and I probably will not do. If you go chaos inoculation with Eldritch Battery, you have 0 ailment threshold and 0 stun threshold, so this will make you immune to the most scary ailment, chill and freeze, but you'll also, if you do that, need a Flesh Crucible for Unwavering Stance to make sure you don't get stunned. You might want this anyway. I'm not sure how stun resistant we're gonna be with our very low life pool, but this does also mean that you cannot dodge or sprint, so I don't really want to take Flesh Crucible if we don't have to, but you can. If you are going to take a Flesh Crucible, make sure you have the 10% less defenses downside, because we don't use defenses, but we do use every other downside that Flesh Crucible has access to. And then speaking of Flesh Crucible, the unique that we can use in the Phys Thorns setup, although it's not necessary and probably expensive, is also a Flesh Crucible. This one for Iron Reflexes with less maximum mana. The Phys Thorns setup doesn't really care about your mana, so that's easy to give up, and it also doesn't want to have evasion, because evasion will make it so that you take less hits, and you don't really want to take less hits, so Iron Reflex will convert all of that evasion into armor. And then also I almost forgot to cover is your Ascendancy. Now the first Ascendancy I'm gonna take is Hollow Form, because I want to test the interaction between Hollow Form and Barbs, but if you are not testing that interaction, you probably only want to take that later. You almost certainly want to get Way of the Stone Fist first, because these gloves are just ridiculously overpowered. And then for your second Ascend, you can consider Hollow Form, but if you are still playing Phys Thorns at that point, you can also go for Runic Meridians, which will give you more immediate power, and then you can grab Hollow Form at your third Ascend and use that as your moment when you switch to mana stacking. This is probably the best option, going Way of the Stone Fist, then Runic Meridians, then Hollow Form, but you can shake it up and do whatever you feel most comfortable with. And then for our fourth and final Ascension, I've gone Way of the Mountain. There's nothing really that the Ascendancy really provides you. Like, you can get some combo stuff, you can get Hollow Focus, but it's not really going to do anything from you. You can just get attack speed and area of effect if you want, but I just think Way of the Mountain is going to be the best option because it gives you defenses. It's not a lot because we don't immobilize often with Thorns, we don't want to immobilize, but every now and then getting a little bit of tankiness is just going to be a nice thing to have. But you could also just not even do your last Ascend if you want. I know no one likes that final Trial of the Sekima or Chaos Trial because of the cost of the key, and then you've got to fight this super long fight, and there, but maybe you drop it Adorned. Up to you. Anyway, that is going to be your setup for Cock and Ball Torture Martial Artist, Crackling Barrier Thorns Martial Artist. The setup is very risky. I'm not even sure entirely if the combo that we are entirely reliant on is going to work. There is a small chance that Barbs and Hollow Form are incompatible. Hopefully not, but we don't have a precedent of Barbs and proxies to rely on and see what works, so fingers crossed. If you are going to League Start this build, make sure you have a backup plan. Fortunately, Martial Artist is ridiculously strong, so there are a lot of backup plans on the market, so don't be too scared of starting this. I would like it if I'm not the only person starting this. I know Zeph's probably going to start it as well. I am still considering the prize pay and Ritualist, but I think I'm more likely to start this option, so keep an eye out for what I do and the PoB updates I put out later, especially when we get the tree. Thank you all for watching. I wish you all a great League Start. I hope you don't have too hard of a time narrowing down your League Start candidates. Thank you for all the support on this League Start period. The growth on my channel has been amazing. You have all been so supportive, and I cannot wait to stream and make post-launch content. It's going to be amazing. Thank you. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. If you get this far, please say I like cognitive behavior therapy in the comments down below. Thank you, and goodbye.